The initial compensation, I took a significant, haircut. But over the years, I've been able to recapture some of that comp. But the reality is, when I was in corporate for many years, the comp made no difference in my life.
Are you happy that happened? Like now, 9 years later, 10 years later, are you happy that happened then and not in year 3, year 4? I feel like that's a great lesson to learn. Your first year in business, like our first year in business, we got hacked with Facebook ads, and we were so happy that happened to us our first year in business than right now, because the money we would have lost now versus then would be like too much to even think about.
You can read and learn on the job, but it's truly through kicks in the shorts that allow you to, pause. And there's power in the pause.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to S&B in the Trenches. I'm Bodhi Gallo, and this is the show where I sit down with home service business owners doing $1 million+ in revenue that nobody's ever heard of. Today, I have Tony from Martin Exteriors, a siding and roofing company or exterior company over in Jacksonville. Thank you for coming on, Tony.
Oh, thanks for having me, Bodhi. It's always a pleasure to spend some time with you, and I wish we could do this over coffee, but virtual works.
Next time. I'll have you come down to Boca next time. But before we get into the numbers and tactics, take me back. Like, what were you doing before you got into the exterior business? Yeah. What made you get into this business?
Yeah, I mean, my experience comes from 27 years as an executive in the life sciences category, and with that, I led big sales and marketing and leadership development teams in pharmaceuticals and med device. Nice. And by the grace of God, about 9 years ago, yesterday was my sobriety birthday. By the grace of God, 9 years ago, I decided to get sober. Congrats. And I decided to truly, as I was living this really authentic brand, I decided to, build my own brand within the home services industry, which I think for the longest time has been marginalized, has been tarnished by a lot of folks who did it the wrong way. And so we're bringing a lot of the soft skills that I developed over 25-year career in the corporate world into our construction company. And with that, we've been able to hire really well. We've been able to hire to cultural aspects of the individual more so than just the skills that are oftentimes prioritized. And so that's literally what that's what we've been doing, and how we've structured the organization, how we go out and recruit leadership. And I think it's really impacted our relationship with the homeowner, because they know that we are an outfit that prioritizes many things, right? One is communication. We often heard, over the years how they would call their contractor and the contractor would call them in 48, 72 hours. That's a no-no, right? We promise to call within the hour. And then secondarily is giving them visibility to the way that we price jobs, so that we can remove and distance ourselves from having, a price comparison where we're dealing with, competition that basically just has, a price at the end. We basically have an itemized invoice so that the customer feels comfortable and confident in how we're pricing the job. And then last but not least, I mean, obviously, we're people, right? I've been a consumer before, and I've built processes in our sales department to ensure that we're prioritizing human connection versus just dropping off estimates. If we have, let's say, 7, 8, 10, 12 estimates a day, we're not just dropping off estimates. We want to make sure that we buy time by being able to connect with the customer and ultimately give us an opportunity to really walk them through these other two things that I've highlighted.
I love that you just said that, the consumer part of it. Like, we started Stryker Digital because I was once a consumer. I was once in your shoes, as you know. Mm-hmm. And we started this business based around what I dealt with a marketing agency versus building my own and being a dumpster rental company myself. And that's the best thing. When you're a business owner and you're able to think like a consumer, your end product is just so much better for your consumer, your customer,
Yeah.
And then what did people say around you before you made the jump?
I mean,
from corporate to business, what did people say around you, your family members, friends, stuff like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's, I went from white collar to blue collar, but I would categorize it as that. I coming from the corporate world where, we did very well. We were compensated, very fairly. Yep. Coming into an industry that I had no experience in, the initial compensation. I took a significant, haircut. But over the years, I've been able to recapture some of that comp. But the reality is, when I was in corporate for many years, the comp made no difference in my life. Financially, yes. But if you're driven by growth, if you're driven by, serving people outside of you, which is what I'm doing now, that truly is the best currency.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of people that thought that I was crazy. Those same people today are pinging me saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a side gig or a side hustle."
Classic.
What are your thoughts? And for me, I mean, I don't know. I learned this from the days where I was in the process of getting into my life in recovery. You have to go all in, right?
Yep.
Just like you did, Bodhi, right?
I just made a tweet about that earlier. You have to go all in, and you got to find people that surround yourself that like going all in. Whether it's playing golf, doing business, working out, eating healthy. Yeah. You have to surround yourself with people who want to go all in and are just as passionate as you are, or you won't have a successful business.
That's exactly right. Because, I mean, half measures, like, they avail you nothing, right? That's a saying in the rooms of AA. And it's the same rule applies here. Side gigs, sure. You're going to, there's going to be some revenue there. But
leave that to pressure washers.
Yeah, it's not going to truly, meet the purposeful feeling that you and I get from driving and building a brand and making sure that we're there for our team members. Because at the end of the day, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously I love my life, but my life really involves making the lives of my team members better.
Of course.
And I feel very strongly about that. And then at the same time, making sure that, because the aesthetics of what we do, right? Whether it's roofing or siding, and I always tell this to homeowners, at the 3-month mark, it's like buying a new car. After that 3-month, the new car smell wears off, and you say, well, I still have to make this payment. And you're like, holy crap, I still have to make this payment. The reality is, for what we do, we want to drive value into the home so that we set the new market comparable for that owner, right? So if your house is, appraised at 300, by the time we're done with your project, it should appraise for 360, 375. Yep. With a $30,000 investment. So
when you're pitching them, you're like, hey, you're value adding $30,000 to your house, but it's going to be worth an extra 60 once we're done. You're saying that in your sales pitch.
100%.
That's beautiful. That's so smart.
100%.
That's so smart. I love to hear that. And like, what's it like? How many people do you have in your team right now?
We have 7. We have 7 full-time admin, nice. And then we have all of our labor pool is right now it's 23 people on the labor side. So technicians that do rough carpentry, siding, and roofing. And then when we get it, right now we're super busy, so we have to, we move from being, self-performing in a lot of jobs to obviously using our subcontractor network that we built over the years. And these guys are, I get it, they're subcontractors, but they're a part of my team. Oh, yeah. We vet them much like we vet a W-2 employee. A lot of guys want to work with us. But we're really stringent because at the end of the day, they're representing the brand, they're representing the company, they're representing us. And so we want to make sure that they match and align with how we do business and what we think about culture.
Do you speak Spanish?
Perfecto.
Of course. And how does Spanish help you hiring subcontractors and hiring employees? Because I feel like when you're in the trades, I have a buddy up in Detroit, same thing as you, Spanish speaker, great at sales, looks like a gringo to the normal person, but speaks Spanish great. Like, how does that affect your business? It probably helps your hiring a ton and just managing people a ton.
Yeah, it really does. The reality is, I was born and raised in Miami. I don't live in Miami, haven't lived in Miami for many years. The being bilingual in Miami is a requirement. Up here, not so much with the homeowner because it is truly, the base here is, Anglo and, American speaking. They speak English, excuse me. But it does help me just prioritize the expectations with our subs and even with our labor. Most of our guys, here in the office and our project managers and even our sales guys, none of them speak Spanish. Yep. And so we use, basically the translate to text or text to translate feature. And we've been doing that for 3 years. Yeah, and it's worked really well. But
I did a lot of that too in the dumpster business. I did a lot of that too, and that's before like hiring overseas was popular like it is now. Yeah, and I was just going back and forth through Google Translate to like subcontractors renting dumpsters for me.
It works. It works.
Awesome. And then take me through like the hardest stretch of your business. Like, what was the lowest point in your first couple of years? Let's say year 1, or you're genuinely like, I'm going to throw the towel. I don't know if I could do this.
I mean, I'm obviously aggressive by nature, right? And I mean that in a way where I take on things that that I know that potentially, this was back in the day. All
of course, like 8 years ago, 7 years ago, like that.
The scopes that we do now, we feel very confident. I mean, our level of expertise is extremely high. But starting off, to answer your question, I'm of the opinion that the only way you learn is through, really walking into the fire, right?
Me too.
And in this particular instance, we hired a subcontractor for 3 of our largest jobs. This was January of 15, I think it was, and it was just a complete nightmare on the one job. And because it impacted that first job, it impacted the other 3 jobs. We come to find out that this individual, we do now, this is the reason why we vet all of our subs. This individual had 36 counts of check fraud and all the things that go with, not matching our culture, to the tune of $87,000, where he basically left us with an $87,000 bill. All of the things that he did, we have to deconstruct because they weren't built to Florida building code. And so it's not just the fact that we, paid him for work that was done incorrectly, but the fact that we had to redo the work. And if you know anything, obviously we're talking to the individuals in the trades, or if not homeowners, anybody who comes after that knows they're coming in salivating because they know that they have to make amends, or they have to make repairs on something that was done incorrectly. So the price per square, or price for whatever it is, whether it's framing or carpentry or whatever, you basically have to 3x it. So that was a huge learning experience where we truly, and when I have 2 individuals on our team that are basically just vetting, whether it's our own W-2 guys, but also a lot of our subs.
Smart. And that happened in 2015, so that's your first year in business, right?
Yeah, that was our first year.
Are you happy that happened? Like now, 9 years later, 10 years later, are you happy that happened then and not in year 3, year 4? I feel like that's a great lesson to learn. Your first year in business, like our first year in business, we got hacked with Facebook ads, and we were so happy that happened to us our first year in business than right now, because the money we would have lost now versus then would be like too much to even think about.
100%. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's just like it's the cost of doing business.
Of course,
right? You can read and you can read and learn on the job, but it's truly through kicks in the shorts that allow you to pause, and there's power in the pause. And so to answer your question, for sure, I'm happy that it happened then. We're very cautious now. We were obviously project timelines, project schedules, contracts with some contractors, and even if we're the primary contractor on the job, all of that is buttoned up. We have legal review all of our contracts, so most certainly it's prepared us for where we are today.
Awesome. No, I figured. I feel like that happens to everyone with their first year in business. And what's your day-to-day like your first year in business versus your day-to-day now, and how much has it changed?
I don't know, man. My team sometimes...
I know you're traveling all the time. You always talk to me in the car.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, well, because we do a lot of work in, Jacksonville, Gainesville, Orlando. So, I'm still very active on the job site. And so because of that, I do travel a lot. I guess when we first started, I was on the job site doing a lot of the work, and for me it was important to establish credibility with a lot of the labor, so that they saw that the owner understood building practices, Florida building code, how to use, whether you're using a table saw, whether you're using a multi-tool, whatever, a framing gun, whatever it is that you're using. It's important to establish that credibility so that they know that they have a partner on their team versus somebody who's just going to dictate terms and tell them what to do. The reality is, and there's a lot of scopes that I ask trade my guys to tell me what they think they should get paid, and we'll come to an agreement. Versus me, the downstream approach where I tell you, hey, this is what I'm going to pay you, and that's it. No, I'm very fair. Today, we're doing a lot of multifamily siding. We're an elite preferred contractor with James Hardie, and what that means that we've done over 4,000 assemblies with James Hardie. We're also a certified installer with GAF, which is obviously the #1 shingle manufacturer in the country. and we're also a certified installer with LP SmartSide. And so for us, it's how do we differentiate what we do and how we do it from those who are just installers, or maybe mid. And I'm not saying that being mid-tier as a contractor is bad, but this is a highly competitive business, and so we want to build distance through all the certifications that we have to ensure that the homeowner and the customer or the general or the developer, if we're acting as a sub, even though I'm a general contractor, but I'm acting as a sub on a bigger project, so that they can feel comfortable working with us. So that's truly what we're doing. I have a higher purview of the business now, where I'm not as micro. It's a lot more macro approach, where I'm leading a lot of folks. I'm leading a lot of the PMs. I'm obviously the director of pre-construction and estimating is also reporting to me. Director of finance. So it's completely different.
Yeah, nice, awesome. And when we go into the certifications, how hard are those to get? Tell people, how hard are those certifications to get? Do they help your sales process?
Mm-hmm.
I talk to a lot of roofers, a lot of exteriors, like James Hardy Siding, GAF Roofing. How much does that help your business in the sales process, or just in general?
Yeah, anytime that you can communicate or share with a homeowner or with a developer or another general contractor that a third party, the leader in that class, James Hardy, obviously the dominant position in siding, if they are qualifying you, it's not something that I bought. Hey, give me that title and I can, contribute $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 a year and I get that title. No, this is something that they basically audit us on, and as a result of having, quality craftsmanship and making sure that there's no complaints to the Construction Industry Licensing Board and all of the things that go with it, we are awarded that designation.
Yep.
Not with one, with many, right? Yep. We have it also on the roofing side. That is a significant point to address when you have a somewhat complicated assembly that the homeowner wants to make sure that's truly where pricing becomes a non-issue. And I'm not saying you can overbill or overcharge. It's still variable in you landing that. But I think that when you have a proof source from a different company, that market dominant player in that, it just facilitates dialogue that is not dollars and cents. You're charging me this. It's different.
Yep. That's awesome.
More of a consultant.
Yeah. No, for us, it's we're Google preferred partners on our end. We had to take a bunch of tests to get that. And it's very helpful to tell people we are Google preferred partners. When I am pitching franchises, I can be hey, I am a Google preferred partner. Here's my ID number. Check it out. So it's similar how every industry kind of has something like that. And then let's break down your marketing spend. What are you spending on marketing? Where's it going? What's working? What hasn't worked for you?
So the reality is we weren't doing any marketing spend until we started working with you.
Nice.
Nothing.
Zero. And how's it been going since working with us?
Incredible. I can't tell you how our business has been fueled by the partnership.
Awesome.
And the reality is I don't have the time to do all the things that you do.
Yeah. For listeners, whoever's listening to this right now, me and Tony had a crazy start to our relationship. I knew I could get Tony. I'll be honest and transparent. I knew I could get Tony leads, but Tony lived in New York for a while. I'm from New York. We both had the same attitude, and I was coming off extremely cocky to him. But it was his first time ever investing in marketing, so he was afraid to take the risk. And I was like, Tony, I don't care if I work with you or don't, but I know I can make you money, and I know we could have a successful partnership. And 8 months later? We're here today, which is awesome. It has worked out a ton, so I love to hear that.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that story, I was when somebody can make bold statements like you did, and then 8 months, fast forward 8 months, and I see the fact that bold statement has been seen through and through over the last 240 days. Yeah. I know that I've chosen the right partner.
Yep, of course.
But yeah, we are now investing. We're doing a lot of stuff with the direct, lead aggregators. Obviously, you run our SEO stuff. We're going to talk about other things that we're doing as a company. Obviously, we're reorging, rebranding, and all that stuff. But we use several lead aggregators, and that's going well, which has caused us, which has allowed us to now look at our CRM. In full transparency, my team loves me, but they don't like the fact that over the last year, we've switched CRMs 3 times.
Really? What do you want? What do you want now?
We're on. This is the one that's going to be the one. We're on Service Titan now.
Oh yes, that's the one.
So it's not cheap, but it is so worth it. Because it just captures everything that's happening in the business, from production to marketing to dispatching your technicians, all the things that go with it, and then working with an agency like yours and making sure that you have visibility to all the things that they provide from a data analytics standpoint. It really helps us operate much more efficiently, and that's truly what's allowed us to be much more efficient with the spend. Right? There's money to spend, but are you doing it haphazardly, and are you doing it in a way that is not disciplined? And this
before we were talking about micro versus macro and how you're at a more macro environment. Mm-hmm. Your team's gonna hate you micro right now, like on the small side of this change, but like in the long run, macro, it's gonna be better because you can be like, hey, this sales rep sold this many deals. I can now give you a bonus, and we can attribute it directly to the CRM, so everyone's gonna win over time.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And again, the way we were paying commissions out before, we were being fair, of course, and paying on schedule. But now the reps can see what the GP, what the gross profit is per job. Yep. So whenever there's a question as to why we're not compensating at the same rate on a job with a 20% GP gross profit margin, versus one that's a lot higher, well then that's where now I have data to support why you shouldn't, why you can't just be discounting all the time just to land something. Yep. Stand for what we do, and pricing will be a non-issue.
Yep.
Right?
I tell my sales reps the same exact thing. It's fun you say that. Every business, like, people think I run an agency, it's different than home service. It's actually the same thing because we're still offering a service. Yeah. It's just we're offering it to you, not the homeowner, which is sometimes better or worse.
Yeah, totally.
And then, like, I know you're doing a lot of stuff with rebranding and whatnot. Do you have any questions for me on marketing, on sales, on anything like that?
Yeah, for me, this rebrand is important, right? We've added a significant scope to our business, and we want to make sure that the rebrand and the rename encompasses and includes all of those. What are your thoughts on rebranding, and then ultimately, how does that impact Google profiles and having multiple, pages? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yep. So I just did this for a window company out in Washington. I'm very happy you brought that up. They just went through a full rebrand. We already had them ranking #1 on Google with their current company and their current business, like we have for you right now. Mm-hmm. What we had him do is keep that website live, keep that Google business profile live. We had him create a second Google business profile with the rebranded company. And the reason why we did that is because the first one ranks. He's still going to get leads for that one. We don't want to destroy the SEO because his top line revenue will go down if we do that, if we have to rebuild it all over again. We kept that one as it is on a small maintenance plan. His new profile, we built a website, got him a Google business profile. We're having him take all like his new customer reviews to that new Google business profile. All of his social media, all of that big SEO work we're doing, all the websites are being rebranded to the new business. We have a small maintenance package for the old one, but the new business is getting all the effort. So the plan here is like getting 2 of his businesses top 3 on maps and kind of bid rigging it, like it's just like real estate. It's digital real estate technically, where he'll have digital real estate. He'll be top 2 of the 3 people on the Google Map Pack. Try to have 2 CSRs on there, one answering one phone, one answering the other phone. And he's going to get double the estimates from this alone. Because we're running Facebook ads on, he's running Facebook ads. We don't run them. He's running Facebook ads on the new brand, social media. Everything's going towards the new brand. But the old brand like yours is 30 years old. So they still have a great brand. People know them. And we're just kind of having him like bid rig the jobs type of thing, getting two leads at once, same estimates, double the estimates. That's the route I would go for you. It's like keep Martin exteriors the same. And then we put all the effort to the new business, the new rebrand, whatever the name of it is, and just go really hard on that because you're still going to make a ton of money from all of the stuff we've built on your old brand.
Wonderful. Okay. So, and then this is another question that I had because, as throughout our working relationship, and you've really prioritized and had me prioritize the reviews, correct? And as a result of that, I think we had we're like at 160 or so, and this happened over the last 3 months. And I know that that's as a result of our conversation. Is it possible to merge or take the reviews? No, you can't take anything.
Unfortunately, we have to start from scratch. That's why what I'm going to start having you do, I'll tell you where we started actually. Okay. What I'm going to have you do on my end is just like take the calls from Martin, go all in on the Martin calls, and then have those reviews go to the new profile, whatever the name of that business is. Have it go to the new profile. Yeah, when we started together, you're at like 60 reviews.
Okay.
So we've doubled that, and your rankings have, like I said, your top 3. Something that's cool with Tony for people listening is like one of his old workers left his company and actually outranked him, and he told me that, and I'm like, dude, this guy is doing nothing good at all. Like we could easily dominate this guy, which we've done now, which is awesome. Yeah. When we get this second profile, you're going to be 2 of 3. You're going to be above him again. I hope he's not listening to this. But it's going to be cool to see that, like having 2 of the 3 on the map pack, you own 66% of the Google map pack. And then if we have you on LSA, it's a no-brainer why you were not going to dominate the Jacksonville market even more.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm grateful to you and your team, the ability to, share something that is top of mind, and the response and the quickness, and not only the quickness in responding, but the ability to address the concern that fast is unprecedented.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
In full transparency, before I got to Bodhi, I had agency fatigue, right? And I've been now with Bodhi and Stryker the longest I've been with any agency. Yep. The longest. Because it starts off great for the first month, and then they don't return your phone calls, and then they don't respond to emails, and everything that I've experienced with Bodhi and his team has been completely the opposite.
Awesome.
So super grateful, man. Totally.
Awesome. Thank you. Really I appreciate it. This has been awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Of course.
I know you're not big on social, so like, where can people find you? Tony's company is Martin Home Exteriors in Jacksonville. They do all exterior work. He is rebranding. We don't have the name just yet, but anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, so my Instagram handle is Sober Roofer. And then on the and then of course martinhomeexteriors.com is also our company page that is pretty active. Not super active, but it's somewhat active.
Awesome. I appreciate you coming on. If anyone who's listening got value from this, smash that subscribe button and leave a review below. It helps operators like stories getting out more. But thank you for coming on, Tony. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks, Bodhi.
Thank you, sir.